Welcome to a new episode of Ask Andrew, the playground for curiosity. I am your host, Andrew Ledet, husband, coach, idea lover, musician, and active practitioner of things. I had the great joy of seeing, hearing, and experiencing a Herbie Hancock concert this weekend. If Mr. Hancock isn't in your rotation, add a few of his albums this week. He is a legend in jazz and fusion with an immense history of innovation and creativity. He said something while introducing the phenomenal band that stuck with me. For each member of the band, who, mind you, are top players for their instruments, he recognized their continued growth and creativity. Here's Herbie Hancock, one of the giants of jazz, commending great players on their growth. I'm nearly certain Mr. Hancock and his band aren't yet weekly listeners of Ask Andrew, but his comments and a night of creative genius reminded me of last week's discussion about play and infinite goals. Today's reflection will combine two seemingly different worlds, music and work. Music has taught me new ways to practice and has stoked my creative fire. We will share these ideas as well as transposing these practice lessons to daily work. We will close with ideas for things to practice. Before we do that, as we do every week, let's take a pause for a couple minutes to breathe, practice our breath. If you have other stuff open and you're able to minimize it, close it, walk away, I invite you to do that. If you can close your eyes and that brings you peace, I invite you to do that. We inhale together and exhale. One more just like that. Inhale, follow that breath down through your lungs, down to your belly, maybe all the way down to your toes. And exhale. Follow that breath out from your toes, belly, chest, mouth, nose. Practice may not be one of those things that we do that regularly. I don't think of things I do as practice. But every day, if you think about our growth as individuals, you can view it as practice. Even this simple act as breathing can be practice. Yoga often is called a practice of yoga. There's no finish line. There's no end result. There's constant tinkering and growth. Each day is different than the one before. So now let's take a moment to acknowledge what's here right now as we come together and breathe, and play with some ideas, and celebrate those moments that we have practiced. So I invite you to call to mind something that you're working on, something that you did today that maybe you weren't able to do yesterday or the day before, and celebrate that achievement. Inhale and exhale. Maybe call to mind other times, either sports or music, if you played music, or other events through school that you applied yourself and you got better at a thing. And celebrate those things. Maybe it wasn't your end goal of what you envisioned, but still celebrate that progress that practice produced. When I think about practice, and for me, music, I think a lot about the growth I've had. I think about the frustrations I've had. And looking backwards, I can see how those frustrating moments, those times where I didn't get the piece of music correctly, or a squawk came out instead of a squeak, or a squeak came out of the horn instead of a desired, beautiful, resonant noise. And I think about those frustrating moments and how that set me up to work harder, to try more, because it was something I cared about, something I wanted to get better at. Finding whatever that is for you, that is one of my goals for our time together today. That if music is your thing, fantastic, drop me a note. Love to play music together with you or talk music. If it's not music, also would love to hear about that. But invite you to think about whatever that thing is that you want to noodle on or that you're practicing. Maybe it's knitting, maybe it's crocheting, cooking, who knows? There's so many different things in this world that we can constantly practice and tinker with. And so thinking about that, celebrating those moments, even the frustrating ones. Inhale to those moments where we've felt frustrated. Maybe you're frustrated today with something. So inhale into that feeling and let it go. Exhale. So that mindset shift I find so valuable as I've gone on this musical journey, to look back on those moments where I was really frustrated and see how that set me up for growth because it was something I wanted. Invite you once more, if you want to stretch, reach your fingertips to the sky or to the earth, whatever feels right to you. Wiggle, waggle, shake it all about, whatever brings you relief and calm. And we'll take one more inhale together. 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 2, 3, 4. If your eyes were closed, blink them on open. And we'll come back together. As I was going through that breathing exercise, I was thinking about one of the concepts we're going to talk about, tempo and a metronome, and trying to count off a breath evenly in that count of 4. When exploring the thoughts for today, at first I was stuck thinking about the differences between music and a professional office job. I initially thought of music as an objective field. Either I play the music on the page correctly, or I do not. If you happen to ask my music directors and teachers, oftentimes I start by playing something incorrectly. Jobs, especially knowledge work, can be subjective. There could be a myriad of ways to complete a task and gradients of correctness. Another challenge that sprang to mind was the duration of tasks. Playing a piece of music or a solo is a distinct amount of time. A job can be open-ended. But if we explore today how these two possibly separate things can be together, hopefully we can make some fun discoveries together. There are a few big discoveries or big concepts I've learned from music. I've learned how to practice. That's the main focus today. This concept of the lab, which we'll touch on a little bit. I've learned a lot about kindness. I've learned a lot about celebrating others. We're going to start first with how to practice. My goal for today is to help share some of the techniques I've learned from music educators and friends on the art of practice, the power of practice. We're going to cover 6 areas of how to practice. First, amp up the fun. Second, how to set goals for practice. Third, how to slow down. Fourth, how to keep a log. 5, use of tools. And finally, 6th, how to focus on the hard stuff. I played the flute for 7 years growing up. I enjoyed playing music and I would practice a few times a week. It wasn't until starting the saxophone 3 years ago that I learned how to practice with purpose, thanks to great and passionate teachers. Old me would get out the sheet music for the concert and play each song from the first measure to the last. And that seemed like an okay way to practice. How can I improve if I don't play the music, I thought. But thanks to these great teachers, I learned scores of different ways to practice. I'll share a few of those ways that have helped me the most, and I'll connect the dots to how we can use this in our day-to-day lives. First, amp up the fun. This is a constant theme for me as you've read or listened on this podcast. And last week I talked about infusing more play in the day. Practice may not seem like the fun thing to do, but there are all sorts of ways to gamify your practice. My first sax teacher taught me the 5-coin game. You place 5 coins on your music stand, and each time I played a scale or a line of music correctly, I'd move one of those coins to the other side of the music stand. The goal is to play a snippet well 5 times in a row. My mind loves a hot streak. If I make a mistake, I restart back to 0 coins. I move those coins back to the other side. For work or office life, a training video may not scream fun to you. It doesn't really scream fun to me sometimes. Embracing that growth or practice mindset can free us from perfectionist tendencies. If I'm practicing, I'm consciously working on improvement. And to quote previous coaches of mine, find the space to toddle and learn. Having some fun around getting better can help you, in fact, get better. Here are some ideas on how to amp up the fun. What can you repeat and incrementally get better at today? Maybe you have 3 coins on your desk and you move a coin each time you compliment someone or each time you speak up in a meeting if you're working on being more vocal at work. Second item, setting a goal for your practice. What are you working on? Simple question. What are you trying to improve? In music, there are several building blocks. Each of these blocks could be a focus area for practice. Here are some examples of musical components: tone, rhythm, tempo, dynamics, timbre. These are all distinct focus areas. Young me didn't pay attention to any of these in great detail. My best practices now have a clear, achievable goal. I'm currently working on improving my rhythm and tempo for a tune called The Blues Machine. My practice goal this weekend was to play the rhythms correctly 3 times at 100 beats per minute. We see in that example that's a very direct, similar to a SMART goal. So how do you use this in your daily life? I found some work tension between SMART goals and BHAGs, if you've ever heard that one, big, hairy, audacious goals. Often in an office setting, there's a celebration for those audacious goals. How do you shoot for the moon and get there? But then some reality about achievable, realistic targets that are part of SMART goals. High achievers, I found, can be prone to set unreachable or too many goals. Some thought might be, I'll have a perfect blank, or I'll do a task accurately and faster than others. In music, my goals are achievable in that singular practice session. They are time bound. And so a helpful nugget there to chew on for when you're setting a goal for your practice, whatever that might be. Here's an idea. Set a goal for your day. Today, I will take a 15-minute walk. Today, I will send a note of gratitude to someone who helped me. Always to set a goal for practicing something. Our next item, how to practice better. Slow down. Even when I set a clear goal, I have a need for speed. I want to play music at the written tempo. Purposeful practice, however, has helped me realize that the path to that achievement may take time. The written tempo for the tune I'm playing at 100 beats per minute is 140 beats per minute. If I add 5 beats per day, I'll be at my goal in a little more than a week. I could jump the tempo, but I may sacrifice the rhythm. Playing slowly ensures my fingers and brain are in sync and scale appropriately as I get closer and closer to that goal. I recall meetings where I was half in the meeting, a quarter in email, and the other third of my mind was thinking about another project. Slow down, be present, take a breath. Despite loads of research on the mental toll of switching tasks, I still do it. It's one of the areas I practice. How can I be fully in whatever I'm doing? One thing I love about playing music is that it can command all of my brain power. I'm actively listening. I'm physically active, moving my fingers, tapping my feet, breathing, thinking, and reading. So how can I bring that same level of alertness to my day? I invite you to think about that one. Here's another idea for you. How can you minimize distractions during your next task or meeting? Today, I will close IMs when I'm in meetings. Not even there for a distraction. Captain's log. If I had more fun sound effects from Star Trek, maybe I'd add those. Keep track of your progress and accomplishments. Some musicians advise keeping a log of your practice goals, your daily practice log. Mine would show different songs and their tempos. I have a solo for a tune coming up, and I'm working on adding dynamics, which are how loud or how soft, to the phrases in that solo. It's easy to lose sight of our growth. I'm sure there are things you do today that were challenging a month or a year ago. That's progress. Congratulations. Do you think about that growth? Do you celebrate it? A practice journal can help you see these wins. A side bonus, it can also help you articulate your progress with your leader. Here's some ideas for logging. Either in a physical notebook or a digital note, start logging one daily or weekly goal. My guidance here would be a daily goal, so you keep it achievable in a day versus longer-term projects, which we're going to talk about in a second. Next, use tools. Things I never used when I played the flute. Tuner, metronome, drone, recording myself. Thanks to technological advances, all these tools can be accessed on one device. They existed before, but I simply didn't know to use them. My foot was my metronome, and it turns out both left and right feet aren't as accurate as a metronome. The tools help me improve. They keep me honest. They keep me accountable. Am I playing on the beat? Are the notes evenly spaced? Am I in tune? How are my dynamics? These tools help me with all these areas and serve as an accountability coach when I'm not playing with others, if I'm playing at home. A couple questions and ideas on this tool piece. What tools do you have access to? What can help you progress? There are several resources available to help check your work. You can ask a peer, you can ask a leader, you can ask a chatbot to check an email for clarity. You could record a practice pitch. You could watch that footage like a game tape if you're in a role that requires meetings. One more simple tool I've mentioned in the past is a survey. Gather data with 2 simple questions. What did I do well? What could I do even better next time? Over time, you can see if the things you're practicing are being commented on that you're getting better or still require some attention. Our final tip on how to practice on purpose: focus on the hard stuff. I spend a lot of my practice time growing my knowledge of music theory to become a better musician and improviser. I also spend a lot of practice time on solos or solis, which is a word I didn't know before, for concert and jazz band. The parts in solos or solis are more exposed, and I desire to play them the best I can on concert day. With these two big goals, I've learned how to be efficient in the practice lab, as my sax teacher refers to it. That entails spending time on the hard parts, the tricky rhythms, and the complex melodic lines. Sometimes I do play the quarter notes or long notes in a song when I'm practicing. Those moments can be a release and boost to my ego when I might be struggling with the complex parts. But playing those easy parts doesn't help me get better. I can already do those. Where's the challenge? Reminder, what's difficult today may not be what's difficult tomorrow. Another practice strategy is called chunking. Divide a big piece of music into smaller, manageable chunks. Young me didn't do this either. I'd play the entire piece of music with varying tempo, and I'd call it a day. Now I play the challenging chunks at a steady tempo until I'm satisfied. Did I move my coins across the music stand? Then I work another section at the appropriate tempo, and I log it in my journal, and I move on to the next thing I'm practicing. So an idea for you on putting this to work. What's a bigger thing or task that you're grappling with? How can you chunk it into smaller tasks? If you're looking for a new job, what's a smaller task that supports the eventual goal? A few ideas I found helpful. Contact 2 people in the field to learn more about their role. Maybe that's the title of what you're applying for. Maybe it's at a different company. Maybe it's at the company you're looking at. If you've recently started a new function and you feel overwhelmed, what's one area that's most perplexing? What are 3 things you could do to chunk it into smaller bits? Where could you learn more about the new task or responsibility? All right, recap and call to practice. We chatted about 6 musical practice techniques and how these ideas can help beyond a recital and manuscript paper. The 6 techniques are: have fun, turn up the fun, set a goal for your practice, slow down, keep a log, use tools, focus on the hard stuff. My ask of you, select one of these ideas and embody the practice mindset this week. What can you deliberately work on? Pick one thing, write it down, and revisit it at the end of the day. I firmly believe my growth as a musician and human is due to the generous educators and friends who have shared their love of music and life with me. I hope these practice concepts for music inspire you to think about how you can identify and practice one thing today that helps you continue to grow. Thanks again for listening to Ask Andrew. Until next time, keep on practicing.